William continues his part of the story. I know that you want to know what happened to us. I shall tell you. 850 Earth years ago, a mass evacuation was carried out from the nearest planet bearing civilized life. Trasconia. Our planet. Our solar system was dying. The sun was growing until it would become too hot for life on Trasconia. If the inhabitants did not leave soon, they would die. In a few million years, all the water on the planet will have evaporated, leaving a huge mass of cloud blocking out all light, trapping all heat, and the pressure will start to grow, crushing anything not specially built for these conditions. Eventually, these too will be destroyed. Things began looking bleak. The future would be bright. The future would be orange. The future would be just one gigantic orange sun. Many probes have been sent out in the thousands of years before the evacuation, looking for a suitable planet to call home, and, fortunately, a planet was found with conditions that, almost identically, matched those found on Trasconia. Unfortunately, this planet already contained life. Life which called themselves humans. If we Trasconians were to land at any of the other planets with suitable conditions, it would take us in excess of 10,000 years. Fuel and food supplies would never be able to last that long, but the journey to Earth seemed much more within the realms of possibility. It was decided to take this risk and to sort out the necessary details about the humans when we arrived. With luck, a compromise would be made and our two races could share the planet in harmony, exchanging technologies. Not that we believed at the time the humans had much to exchange with their primitive technology, and giving aid to each other. But in the eventuality of these humans not being prepared to make such a compromise, a number of smaller fighter craft were to be included, but to be used only in the most desperate of situations. Our ancestors, when planning their preparations to find our new home, had peaceful intentions. But there was much more. Before all that, before anyone knew what was happening, people needed to know what was going on. The first major difficulty was in how to get there. Space travel was the immediate obvious answer, but there was also an obvious difficulty. With such a large distance to cover and such a large amount of people and, on top of that, the supplies that would be needed, not to mention the engines that would be needed to push this mass, increased in size by the powers that would be needed to get such a large mass going at such a fast pace. How would it be possible to move an entire world? Ideas were thrown all round the place, but no one had the answers that were needed, such as where the destination was, the length of the journey, the size of the actual destination, and just how suitable the destination would be. As well as the supplies needed for the journey, what tools would be needed if the planet turned out to be not that suitable and lacking in, say, simple building materials. The first probe sent out had still not returned any answers, and probes were sent out in the following centuries. Many of them. Panic began setting in on the world of Trasconia. Some, feeling more doomed than others, began breaking out into riots. The government tried many tricks, keeping the information locked away so that with lack of knowledge, people would not get scared, but this could not last forever. As time went on, there were noticeable changes in temperature over the centuries, and land masses started disappearing under the seas. This was caused in part by gases placed by us in the atmosphere, which was seriously not helping causes. Some people knew the answers, of course, and the information could never be kept secret for long. Reassurances were sent out that the world would not be doomed for thousands of years yet. But somehow, even that reassurance of thousands of years was much too short for a planet that was meant to survive forever. Eventually, answers came. The probes were small and could travel very fast, yet still only a fraction of light speed. One that had been sent out 1,000 years before returned with news of a planet that would, ultimately, be 10,000 years away. Plans were discussed, but the answer seemed too big. 5 years later, news of another planet hit home. The planet looked more inhabitable, but was even more hundreds of years further away. However, third time lucky, a probe that had been sent out only 2 decades earlier had hit home. There was a planet that they could easily inhabit. It was only approximately 5 light years away. It would take less than 1,000 years of travel time. Still a large amount of time, but was within a much more anticipated time frame. Plans and talks suddenly increased tenfold in their intensity. How to get there was the question asked again. They could build a ship to tow the planet, but that would be silly, because as soon as it was taken away from its home in the solar system, the planet would freeze over, destroying life on the planet and any of the conditions on it. It would just be an uninhabitable rock, even if the people could survive. It was silly and absurd, but talked about for a couple of years. What about the large numbers of the peoples that created the population of the world? A lottery was to be drawn up closer to the time, with a set number of people allowed. But with this in mind, people felt less inclined to give birth, as they felt their children's lives would become unnecessary if they were to be left on the planet with no hope. It was also feared that more rebellions and riots would happen if people were forced away from their loved ones, or suicides would occur. Although suicide was a good solution, as it would cut down on the population, making the numbers that bit easier to deal with. The lottery idea, regrettably, was scrapped at a later date. Instead, what would be needed? One massive ship or a smaller fleet of ships? Years of research went into shipbuilding and the mathematics and physics involved. It was decided that a fleet of smaller vessels would be the best course of action. Although more expensive, the ships could be built quicker, with each country responsible for producing their own. With this determination to build ships underway, a new calm was able to come over the world of Trasconia. With a renewed sense of purpose and escape on the horizon, the sense of doom lifted. But the calm was very short before the storm. It would take decades, if not centuries, to build the ships. Those who started would never get to see the craft even half built. The taxes had risen extremely high in order to be able to build these ships, and with most of the tax going on the ships, the world they were leaving was left to decay as it began to feel useless and old. The decay creeping in was all right for those who were to leave the planet, but for those who would grow old and die beforehand, the decay was not acceptable. More riots and revolts took place. Information from other probes came back. There was still none as good as the Blue Planet. It was decided that instead of letting each country have complete control over their own ship, it was decided to have a mothership that would lead the way. The destination would be entered in and could not be altered. These ships would have to obey the mothership and the messages it sent to the other ships as it guided the way. Although the destination was to be pre-programmed, the course was to be flexible, as asteroids, comets, and meteor belt would definitely need to be circumnavigated by each ship. But after these obstacles were overcome, told so by the mothership, the destination would become the main focus for each ship again. These minor course deviations were acceptable. It was feared that rebellions may occur and that the fleet would separate and go in different directions in search of new worlds. The ships were nearing completion. They had to decide who was to become the mothership. Some countries immediately assumed it was to be them. Others were prepared to take the responsibility, but did not expect to get it. War was declared. But there was no money for defense or attack. Talks ensued with this lack of armies and weapons. They did not go smoothly, they did not go that quickly, but were accomplished with less expense and time wasting than war had ever achieved. They were all silently surprised. Due to high standards of education, scientific output, and athletic output, a nation was chosen after a vote had been put forward. Though democratically decided, the decision was resented as the leaders knew that at some point in time their own nation had been considered the strongest in these fields. But that had to be put aside. Time was to tell. An evacuation date was called. The people left their houses, homes, and past lives. Some early, some late. Houses were searched to make sure people had left, but this was haphazard and lazy. Many chose to be left behind, and the governments did not care, as the numbers on board ships were already very large. It had taken nearly 500 years to complete the ships, and the designs altered as new fashions and technological improvements were added. The ships left the atmosphere. In most, huge viewing ports had been created at the back of ships, where a great many temples were soon to be found. And on the day of departure, they were overcrowded, most not getting the chance to say goodbye to the planet they would never see again, as it turned into a ball, into a star, into nothing. 850 years later, we have arrived. I am the ruler of the Trascon race. My name is Skagfright. Yes, we have peaceful intentions. I, for one, certainly hope that our two races will one day live harmoniously, side by side. Yet, I regret that the humans, when faced by us, will not know what to make of us. I fear that they will consider us a threat to their lives, to their society, to their culture. Had this been 2,000 years ago, when we first came across the planet, we would have been able to assimilate ourselves smoothly into Earth. Who knows? Maybe they would have thought us gods. Maybe they would have thought us new beings that humans had not yet encountered on Earth. Who knows? My concern is this. Humans are not like that anymore. They are too aware of themselves and the Earth that they live upon. We will never be anything but aliens. The humans are now in a position where they can start to stand up to such a threat as ourselves. The way that they have been progressing, I doubt it will be long before they can match us in strength. Therefore, we can only consider them a threat. This is a two-way process. Yet, our ancestors, our entire race, have all invested far too much to give up now. We are here. Deal with it. Take Skernaj, for instance. A trusted friend, I guess. Skernaj has been born on this ship. All his life he has only ever known life in a confined space, never once being out into the open air. Instead, breathing air that has been recycled so many times one can almost see it. However, Skernaj has been lucky. He has come under the leadership of myself. As an acquaintance, if not friend, as a subject. As with all my subjects, I do not intend to see our voyage fail. Not now. I intend to finish paying the debt to my people and my ancestors that I started paying as soon as I became supreme leader. I intend safely to get to Earth and create a new home for ourselves. I have but one final installment to make. Unfortunately, I feel that this is becoming the hardest to pay. Sometimes, in my quietest moments, I wonder if I ever can. Before I can dwell on this any longer, however, Skernaj turns to me and speaks. "Trasag Hanklon, retting fron," he says. Literally translated, it means that the reconnaissance mission is underway. It is not this that riles me, however. In order to make ourselves more acceptable to those on Earth, in order to get past the monstrous faces that they will no doubt see in us as we see in them, I have made my people talk in English. We are fluent in many more languages, yet as English appears to be the dominant language, so I have made it on board our ships. I do not deny that people speak in their native tongues at home. I do not grudge that. But as practice in diplomatic and official situations, I enforce it in schools, in work, most especially on the bridge where we are situated now. I regard Skirnadge's words as nothing more than a mere slip. It happens. But what if we are on Earth and our language slips out? Could the paranoid humans not believe that we are discussing something so petty as war, insulting them? I do not know what they might construe. It is not a gamble I desire to take. For this reason, I glare at Skirnadge. Skirnadge looks slightly panicked. He always does. He knows he has made a mistake, but this does not stop him from looking worried. This also bothers me. In such a major situation dealing with humans, can this not be seen as a sign of weakness? Skirnadge is a good person, I know that. But there are too many risks, and even this look of worry cannot be tolerated. But pity takes me as I talk to him. Speak English, my dear boy. We will be on Earth soon. They will not be able to understand us if we talk like that. So get some practice in. Yes, Supreme Leader, I do apologise. This comes out a bit broken, but he has been practicing. I do not think that people understand this desire of mine that everybody should speak in a human tongue. They think that we should be getting the humans to talk our language. Yes and no. To successfully gain entry into Earth, I regret that we are going to have to play by their rules to a small degree. It does not make us look very dominant, but I have to be strong enough to give way in certain areas, I guess. Apology accepted. Continue. The reconnaissance mission is underway. Very good. Can you put the pictures up on the screen? There is a love-hate relationship with the Earth, and an interesting parallel can be drawn up with an ancient religion. Many, many thousands of years ago, there was a more extreme society of our people. These were still in the Dark Ages, when Trasconia was still healthy and gave much sustenance. These people believed that to gain entry to their heaven, you would need to fight the armies guarding the gates, that by winning this battle, you would rightfully gain entry to this heaven. Many of my people see Earth as a promised land, but they see the humans as being some kind of guards to battle first, before we can rightfully gain entry. There is some logic to this idea after all. When we enter the Earth, our old life in space will be over, and a new way of life will begin. But I see more. I feel that there is some kind of a code to crack concerning Earth. That there is an easy way in, but I cannot see it. Earth's history is too bloody. Yet even now, I feel a strong need to study Earth. I have to understand. This is why I now need to view Earth. I have even added my own personal touch. I have taken an Earth name, William. This will be recognizable to humans, and hopefully they will consider me to be more friendly. I wear human clothes. A cloak. The nature of its design is different to our clothes. We wear largely light clothes, loose clothes. After all, our sun was heating up our planet. Sometimes life forms cannot evolve that quickly. But I have chosen a cloak, because although of human design, I can still exist as a Trascon without the clothes taking too much of my identity. Skirnadge bows his head towards the console. A moment later, the image on one of our many screens has changed. No longer is this screen displaying positions of the fleet, ship statistics, and layouts. Simple navigational maps. It displays Earth. Skirnadge controls the focus until the image is crystal clear. It shows pictures of the countryside of England. Skirnadge pans the camera around at my command and focuses on an automobile. When we first came across Earth 2 millennia ago, almost. A myth has it that the humans had made virtually no technological advances of any major scientific degree. Yet, the evidence we have is to the contrary. Still not a major threat to us, but they have certainly harnessed the power of mechanics and electricity, unlike the animal power of said myth, says Skirnash. And this is why we must be careful, I say back to him. Inside this automobile, we can see a human waving. Other members of the crew start jeering. They always hate seeing humans, believing that their fate is not promising. Yes, sire, but you must remember, sire, that the humans are creating new technologies and new weapons all the time. Pretty soon, they may be able to equal us in firepower. Plus, the humans have just experienced a war. We may be able to weaken them more if we were to keep up the tensions between the different leaders. It is important that we find out everything that we can so that we make absolutely no mistakes. Oh, greatest being that this multiverse has ever known about. This is why I like Skirnash. He actually shows a knowledge, a level of understanding, but even he must think deeper. Put out a press report. The invasion starts tomorrow. Yes, your Lord High Excellency of Supremeness. I look in the direction of the door. For a few minutes, I just blankly look at it.